Good morning, Dallas. How are you?
Doing great, Kevin. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. Monday morning here. Fantastic to get to talk. I want to introduce you to our future viewers. It's an honor to get to spend a few minutes with a member of country music royalty, honky tonk royalty, Dallas Wayne. He's a singer-songwriter, recording artist, voiceover artist, actor, producer. I'm not sure what he hasn't done. And
none of it as well as I should have.
He can be heard 6 days a week as the voice and on-air personality of Willie's Roadhouse and Sirius XM radio. And Dallas, I just thank you for your time today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, in the part of your life as a recording artist, let's maybe start with that part. I understand you're getting ready to release your 13th album. Is it your 13th? Is that right?
Yep. It'll be my 13th. Lucky 13, I hope.
There you go. There you go. And it's called Coldwater, Tennessee in the near future this year. And you're getting ready to debut a single called I Hit the Road. What can you tell us about the new song?
The new single itself is a song I wrote a while back with a guy by the name of Robbie Fulks, one of my favorite co-writers. Robbie and I go way back to a bluegrass band in Chicago back in the 80s. And we've still maintained writing together all these years. It's one of the songs we've done off him. And it's just about life on the road as a musician.
Great, great. And when do you expect to have that whole thing set up with the song and the album coming out? Coldwater, Tennessee, the album itself. What's the plan for that?
Coldwater, Tennessee will be out on April 22nd, available wherever fine music is sold, and they'll have a section for the other stuff, which will be what's I'm in. It won't be in the fine music section; it'll be in the other section.
Yeah, I mean, and in the current world, the current landscape of the music industry, sometimes it's a little bit trickier to have that fine section where things are sold, because that fine section becomes the internet many times, right? Anymore,
Oh, it sure does, and the internet's been a blessing as far as
absolutely.
That goes. This is a new model over the last 10 or 15 years of how you make and release records and record them and clear on up to getting them in the retail. And it's changed, and the internet has been a big part of that change. And I think a lot of it's for the better.
I think so. I mean, it allows you really to get to a huge audience worldwide. If you're traveling keeps you in the States, you're reaching out to the world through the internet. So I mean, I think could be a very good thing.
Sure, you bet.
How did you decide to name your upcoming album called Coldwater, Tennessee?
It's one of the songs off the record. It's a good old-fashioned killing song, which is one of my favorite subgenres of country music. There's songs about home and love and heart and losing and winning, and then there's also the killing songs over there in that separate category. It's always been one of my favorites.
Do they have a separate section for that in the place where fine music is sold? The killing music and the
They might in some of the scarier record stores. You might be able to find that the killing song section.
Let me ask you, how did you initially get that start in the music business? I mean, you've done so many things and broken into so many segments of the music industry. How did you first get into music and decide that this was what you were going to do with your life?
I pretty much decided early on, much to the disgust of my parents. They wanted me to go into something a little more stable. But when I was a teenager growing up in Missouri, I got eaten up with the bluegrass bug. And my mother was getting her master's degree down here in Nashville at George Peabody. And we were living in Cape Girardeau, Missouri then. So it's only about a 5-hour drive down here. So when she couldn't come home on the weekends, my dad and I would come down here. And that's when I really that's when the light switch went on about making a living in the music business, and moved down here shortly thereafter.
Making a living you have done. It's just amazing the breadth and the scope of the things that you've done. And no 2 days are ever the same, I'm sure, in your life.
You got to compartmentalize and just be able to juggle it all, but it's all doable. There's 24 hours in a day and you can get a lot done.
And you're using 23 of them, I believe.
When you get older, you don't need as much sleep as you used to, so used to we'd stay up all night for a good reason. Now it's just because that's just the way it is.
Right. How did you break into the commercial voiceover part of the business? I know you've done a lot of commercials. That's kind of a narrower part of the industry. How did you start doing that?
Well, for a while I lived up in Chicago, and Chicago was known as the jingle capital of the world. I started out singing on jingles for McDonald's and American Airlines, Nokia, tons of different people like that. And then just kind of eased my way into the voiceover side of things. And they said it was a good sell to have me do the lead vocal on a commercial and do the voiceover. And so we did a lot of that. And now, of course, that kind of morphed into the radio thing a little bit about the same time. And it's a great thing to do because you can do it at home in your underwear.
Right, right, absolutely. And I'm actually I'm here in Chicago myself. I've been a Chicago resident most of my life, my whole life.
Uh-huh.
And I never thought about that. Now it makes sense that as a Chicago resident for a while, that yeah, this is really the place where so much of that the jingle market was huge here, and it still continues to be in many ways.
Indeed, yeah, it is. I've got friends of mine that are still in that business up there in Chicago that are still busy as they want to be 30 years later.
Right, right. As a songwriter, what's it like to hear other colleagues like Jeannie Seeley and Willie Nelson sing one of your songs, something that you wrote, Not a Dry Eye in the House, something that you wrote, hear them recording it on one of their albums? What's that like?
It's an honor. You never get tired of it. The songwriter side of me is something that's the first thing. And that was what started it all for me I wanted to be a writer. And I wanted to be a writer of prose and things like that. And my father, who was a college professor, said, your attention span is only about 3.5 minutes long. Maybe you should stick to songwriting. And he was probably right about that thing. But yeah, to get somebody, two heroes and friends record one of your songs it's a wonderful thing. I'll tune into the Opry on Friday nights or Saturday nights when Jeannie's on, for example, and every now and then she'll do it. And I just puff up on the couch just a little bit more, every time it happens.
Yeah, it's got to be just such a wonderful feeling. I mean, to think about the journey of writing a song when you're sitting there with pencil and paper and maybe a keyboard or guitar, whatever it is, whatever your composing instrument is going to be at that moment. And then know that you brought it to the recording studio for yourself, that you recorded it, and then to see someone else say, hey, I'd like to, can we do this? Can we record this? And it's got to be so rewarding to know its beginnings and see where it goes. Any song.
Yes. And it's important to make that transition because when you're writing a song, it's a solitary effort. And it comes to a point where you demo it and you turn loose a little bit more of it, then you go in the studio, like you said, and record it yourself. And then it's out. And, to have two of your heroes walk up and say, hey, we want to do that song was pretty darn cool.
Right, right. When you write, do you ever think of a certain voice in mind besides your own, of course, but do you ever think of wow, this is a song that could be in the style of this person? When you were first starting out as a songwriter, especially maybe that that was the career you were trying to chase, anything like that where you were kind of singing?
Yes, sure. Definitely. That happens, especially when you're first starting out writing. You'll be influenced by your heroes. You'll be influenced by Left Rizal or Merle Haggard or something like that. And so if you're in that zone anyway, you might write something that you could think maybe someday I'll get Merle to record this song or something like that. The song you just mentioned, Not a Dry in the House, I wrote that with Ray Price in mind.
Okay.
And Ray loved the song and was wanting to cut it before his untimely passing. And it's kind of a shame, but I was really glad that two of his old friends, Jeannie and Willie, got together and put it out.
Absolutely. It's kind of a tribute in the second that he knew them, he knows you, together you caught him. He kind of was a part of that release because he knew that group. He knew all of you. So that's kind of neat that in a way he was a part of that whole journey.
Yeah, he was. And he was a good mentor to me in so many ways. We did a lot of shows together on the road, and he was on my radio show many times. Would come in and that his PR people would say he can only give you a half hour, and 2.5 hours later, he'd still be on, and we'd be just having a great time.
Right. Speaking of the road, you mentioned being on the road and everything. What are the plans this year? I would imagine that in your corner of the world, you're doing shows here and there, but are there plans to take this record out and kind of take it through the country, the Midwest, the South?
Sure. Yes. In fact, anybody out there needs a hillbilly singer / DJ, I can get in the car, be over there in an hour. It's not a problem. Yeah, we'll be touring on this record as much as we can now. Our radio job does keep us close to home. There's no more 3 or 4 week tours in a row in my life anymore.
Right.
Thankfully, because of the radio show.
Right.
But they have airplanes, and airplanes they'll get you there pretty darn quick.
Absolutely. They sure will. They sure will. Of all the different things you do, and this is probably a very difficult question, but what part of the career do you get the most satisfaction? I know in each way, each thing probably its own type of satisfaction, but the one thing that you just pinch yourself and say, wow, this is really something I get to do with my life.
There's two. One of them is the songwriting part of this thing, because like I said, that's what I wanted to do at the very beginning. That's what I've always wanted to do and what I always kind of considered myself to be. But today, for example, on the radio, I'll get notes from people every day and it dawns on me that they may be a little bit older, and this may be the only human interaction they have all day long. Listen to what we do on the radio every day, and it makes a difference for both of us. People say, having you on is a wonderful thing. It's been a wonderful thing in my life. Well, that works both ways, because having them listen every day and it's something you can't replace.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you're having breakfast with so many people every day, or lunch, or whatever. I know a lot of morning shows. You're sharing breakfast with people, and they, you until you stop and think about it like that and analyze it, you don't really realize the impact that you can have on people through what you do, and the impact that people have on you, vice versa. Like you said, that all the people that you've met through your world and as a radio on air personality, and the people you've talked to and people you've interviewed, and then your fans, the people that are the dedicated, loyal fans that, toss on your station and listen to, Willie's Roadhouse all the time.
Yeah, I'm a very fortunate young man not young, but I'm a very fortunate man when it comes to that, and I'll never take it for granted. It's something special and magical for me.
So you said April is about the timeline that we're April 22nd, I believe you said April 22nd. Yep. for the album. So, we're anxiously awaiting that to hit the music, the airwaves and all parts of the industry where they are today in 2022. What's the best way, besides obviously listening to Willie's Roadhouse or seeing you on the road, listening to your records, what's the best way for people to tune in more to you about your life through social media and, the other different media formats out there?
We're pretty active on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and that kind of thing. I've got a Twitter account. I don't know how to use it, but my wife does. And that's, we either get my wife to do most of that or find a 12-year-old kid off the street to show me how all that works. But we interact every day through our Facebook page directly with folks who either listen to us on the radio or come out to see the shows or bought the music. And it's a great way to do it. You can do it all over the world and all over the country. So we'll be doing that. The Facebook page is Dallas Wayne. It's got a blue check mark beside it, so it's us. And with all the crazy things going on the internet these days,
yeah,
we're shutting down. And Lord knows I can't figure out why anybody want to impersonate me. But we've got a raft of them every week. There's 4 or 5 of them that we have to get shut down. But if you look for the blue check mark, you'll know it's us. And then DallasWayne.com is our website address. And we've got all the tour information up there, bio information, pictures, how to buy music, how to buy merchandise, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And people have just got to take the time and check it out, because there's a lot of stuff up there. Like you said, it's a great website. I checked it out myself to see what kinds of different things, what angles you're working in the music industry with that. Because just like I said, there's so much you've done, and it's a great website and people have to check it out.
They'll be honored if they would.
So, I know you have a very busy morning. I thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to the single hitting I Hit the Road and the album in April 22nd, Coldwater, Tennessee. Dallas, thank you so much for sharing some time with us today.
Kevin, thank you for spending time with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Anytime. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you. All the best to you.
You bet. You too.
Bye-bye. Let me just